Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone, and the Detroit Pistons are back. Last season was the worst year in franchise history. They weren't even trying to tank, and they still found a way to win a record low 14 games. They won on a 28-game losing streak, tied for the longest ever. Their coach was called out as a double agent and got fired. Their general manager was kicked out. A lot of people started to give up in the vision that the Pistons had, thinking that maybe they need a second reset to rebuild this rebuild. People were thinking that Cade Cunningham couldn't be the guy. It was a nightmare. And here we are, January 14th of 2025, and the Pistons right now are a playoff team. If the season ended today, they would be the 8th seed. They're tied with the Miami Heat, 2 games above 500 for the first time since I believe it was 2018-19 when Blake Griffin was in town, and right now they're just 1.5 games back of the 4-seeded Orlando Magic. There's a real possibility that by the end of this season, the Pistons aren't just a team that's in the playoffs, they're a team that avoided the play-in entirely, and it's been getting better and better because since the calendar turned over to 2025, they're up there with the best of the best in terms of the most wins. This team is hitting their stride. They're evolving rapidly. They've quickly gone from a dire situation to one of the most exciting teams in the entire sport. They've become kind of my Eastern Conference team. I have enjoyed watching Pistons basketball more than most other squads in the NBA, and I never would have expected to say that coming into the season. I felt like they were going to be way better this year, that they would be, an edge of the play-in team. Maybe they make it, but probably not because last year's just such a dumpster fire, and here we are talking about them being a playoff squad. It's been an amazing rise, and I want to talk about how special it's been, and easily the biggest highlight of this Pistons season so far has been Cade Cunningham. As I alluded to earlier, there were a lot of people that were pretty down on Cade Cunningham coming into the season. I remember when I would make videos about their losing streak and the state of them last season, I would say I feel bad for Cade because he's playing out of his mind in some of these matchups. It's just not enough, and there are a lot of people commenting that it was majority his fault. They were saying he's the top guy, and because he can't drag them to any wins, he's bad and he can't be like the top guy for them in the future. I remember when all the player ranking lists came out, like the top 100 players that ESPN and Bleacher Report and all those sites do, and one of them had Cade ranked extremely low. My guy Kenny called it out and said that Cade is ranked ridiculously low. A lot of people agreed with him, but there was also a major group that said that no, Cade's not that good and that he's really never going to turn into anything. That was something that became pretty popular online over the course of this past summer. And now, we're not just talking about an all-star lock in Cade Cunningham, we're talking about a potential all-NBA guy. He's been one of the best guards in the entire sport and has transformed himself into one of the best offensive engines in basketball. Last night, he led Detroit to a win over the Knicks in Madison Square Garden with 36 points, 4 of 8 shooting from 3, a couple of boards, 4 dimes, 14 of 27 from the floor. He was phenomenal, taking over in the final minutes to help them seal this victory. And now in the season, Cade's dropping 24.5 points per game, 6.6 rebounds, 9.4 dimes. I believe that's 3rd in the league at the moment. And he's shooting 38% from the outside. Cade has continuously evolved. He is doing some special stuff. He's gotten so good at manipulating defenses. If you play drop coverage on him, he's going to shoot that pull-up 3 a ton, and he's most likely going to knock it down. It's become an extremely reliable weapon for him. And just overall on the 3-point line, he's now an extremely dangerous threat. So defenses have to keep their eye on him there, but also he is a nightmare to guard in the mid-range. With his size and his ability to continuously get to his spots, you're basically never going to stop him from getting where he wants to. There's almost nothing most defenders can do, and Cade is just so good at finding his way to where he needs to go, dragging in all the defenders, all the eyes are on him, and that combined with him being one of the better playmakers in the sport just makes him one of the most complete offensive players that we have in the league. He is going to find the tightest windows possible to pass to guys. He's going to pass players open. If someone's open on the 3-point line, Cade probably sees them. The vision is there. He can get downhill. There's pretty much nothing that Cade Cunningham can't do. He's also rapidly improving as a defender. He's not an all-defensive guy quite yet, but he's getting better and better, and the tools are there for him to become really, really good on that end. And this is stuff I always believed Cade was able to do, but it's just way easier now because he's got real space around him, and that's reflected in the 3-point shooting between last season and now. Last year, the Pistons were the 26th ranked team from the outside, and now they're 12th, and Cade is part of that improvement, but it's also guys like Malik Beasley, who has been a revelation for them. He went from last year, Cade, playing with like Kevin Knox out there as a spacer, to a guy that's able to shoot around 40% from 3 on 9 attempts per game, and last night against the Knicks, he hit 2 dagger threes to go ahead and seal this one. And that's something that he never had the luxury of over the course of his entire first 3 seasons in the NBA. He never had somebody that was that reliable. Malik Beasley has been huge for them. And it's also like Tobias Harris, who hasn't been great, but he at least gives Cade another offensive player to bounce off of. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been another revelation from the outside. All they had to do was add some shooters, just a little bit more offensive talent, and like Jaden Ivey has also improved as a shooter, and it's really unfortunate that he went down with injury for what seems like a little while. Of course, he had that broken bone in his leg because he was putting on a career year. He's a special talent in the making, but like his improvement too from the outside, it's just all opened up the game so much for Cade. And really, it was obvious that he always needed spacing. He always needed at least some talent around him to become the player that it always felt like he could be. It's here, and you're seeing what can happen. Cade is a great example of why we need to be patient with players, even if they're like consensus #1 overall guys. It takes some time, especially when you're in a situation as dire as Cade was to begin his career with the Pistons. So he's been amazing. Like I said, Jaden Ivey was having a career year, developing at a rapid pace before that injury. It doesn't sound like it's going to be season ending, so hopefully he's able to come back soon. And when he does return, I'm really excited to see how he and Cade continue to develop together, because for a while it was like, can they work as a backcourt? And over the course of the season, it's become clear to me that they can. Now, are they going to be the backcourt that leads them to contention? I'm not sure, but I know for a fact that these two guys can coexist at a pretty high level. We've seen it a lot throughout this season. Ausar Thompson, a special defensive player, already one of the best defensive leagues in the sport. Both him and Amen Thompson have that ability, just two of the most athletic and physically imposing young players that I've ever seen. Ausar, if that three-point shot can ever come along, he's going to be huge for this team. I mean, he already is, because this isn't a very good defensive team, but Ausar is such a linchpin. He's the guy that you can just throw in the opposing team's best score, and he's going to find a way to slow them down. Jalen Duren's been great as an offensive rebounder, someone who gets them a lot of extra possessions as a lob threat, a highly athletic big. He does leave a lot to be desired defensively. Like, he's one of the worst defensive bigs in the league right now. That's going to have to really change over the course of his career if he wants to be the long-term starting center for this team, but he's also still extremely young, so I'm going to give it time, and he does do some stuff that helps them out. Isaiah Stewart, meanwhile, has been really solid for them on the defensive end and brings a ton of energy. That's no surprise there. I've liked a lot of minutes that Ron Holland has shown so far. Very raw player, and the shot is definitely a work in progress, but even still, I like the energy that he brings to the table. Simone Fontecchio is another guy that's able to knock down outside shots. I like the minutes that Marcus Sasser's provided this season. The Pistons just have something really fun going. They have a young guy in Cade who is an all-star, all-NBA caliber player at this point, who feels like he's on a superstar trajectory. A lot of really interesting young pieces around him. They're competitive right now. And not only that, but it sounds like they may be looking to add more talent, which I love the idea of. If you're the Pistons, take advantage of this right now. You have not had many winning seasons. Give Cade another guy to go ahead and help him out and push forward, try and really get into the playoffs this year. For example, Brandon Ingram has been rumored to potentially be someone that the Pistons are looking at. I like that idea a lot. They need somebody to play on that wing to give another scoring punch alongside Cade. I think BI would be really good in that role. If you roll him out there alongside Cade, I think the two-man game could be really fun. You then have another mid-range assassin. That's really exciting. I really like the idea of Brandon Ingram there, and I feel like with his contract expiring and the Pelicans really not seemingly looking to bring him back, there's probably not that much of an asking price for him. So I would definitely consider that. Really, any potential star that's available. If I'm the Pistons, I'm getting involved in the talks. I'm figuring out, what do I have to give up? What am I willing to go ahead and trade to make this work? Give Cade some more help. Continue to build the hype around the Pistons, because it's real right now. People are really in and excited about this team, not just Detroit fans. I'm sure you've seen already, like a billion other basketball content creators have made videos, whether it's about the Pistons or how good Cade Cunningham has been, because it's exciting. They have not been very good really at all for the last couple decades, so it's exciting to see them again as a competitive squad, and having a guy like Cade who is really elevating this team at every turn. I'm excited to see what Jaden Ivey looks like when he gets back as their young players continue to develop, what that looks like if they make a move at the deadline. I really hope they go ahead and push for something, because they have single-handedly made the Eastern Conference play-in picture way more interesting. If they weren't there, it wouldn't be as exciting, but because of them, it's really fun to follow. follow. Shout out to JB Bickerstaff, who was fired from Cleveland and immediately had the chance to try and change the culture here in Detroit. And he did exactly that. Over the course of one offseason, there's just so much more buy-in. Guys are willing to go out there and do whatever it takes to win basketball games. I can't believe how much of a failure the Monty Williams hiring was. I liked it a lot when it happened. I felt like it made sense that Phoenix moved on from him. It really wasn't working, but I really felt like he was going to be kind of this culture shifter that JB Bickerstaff has been in Detroit, and instead it was, again, a moment where people thought maybe he's trying to get fired. That's how bad some of his decisions were, how baffling the whole era was. But yeah, shout out to JB Bickerstaff and this Pistons team as a whole. Shout out to Pistons fans. They have had to suffer through a lot. They had to suffer through a ton. Just last season alone, multiple times where they had the worst record and gotten the 5th pick in the Victor Wembanyama draft. They were the team that had the best odds, and they fell all the way to 5, but they're making the most out of it, and it's a team that has rapidly ascended, and I really hope makes it into the playoffs. Let me know down below in the comments if you think they make it into the playoffs. Who would you like to see them face off against in a playoff series? Where would you rate Cade Cunningham in the NBA right now? Do you have him as an all-NBA player? I'm not even going to ask about All-Star because he should be a lock. Leave a like, subscribe if you enjoyed, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos, and yeah, appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.